We also know, with reference to the crime that he commits shortly thereafter and close by, the carjacking, that on that separate case, and that is because our system generally organizes cases by different victims, but on that separate case, Pfeffer is charged with robbery, carjacking, theft, violation of the Uniform Firearms Act, terroristic threats, tampering with evidence, obstruction of justice, and related offenses. Pfeffer is ineligible for bail because he is charged with murder one and murder generally. While we are aware of reports of a juvenile history that have been in the media, Pennsylvania law prohibits us from talking about our own sources of information in relation to that at this time.
If you're new to Medicare, call 1-844-985-0087. We'll walk you through all your coverage and benefit options to help find the right plan for you.
Today on the Jennifer Hudson Show, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar changed the game.
I wanted to play baseball. Baseball morphed into basketball. I did okay in basketball.
Plus, Night Court star Melissa Rowley. Then Rotimi performed. The Jennifer Hudson Show starts right now.
And good afternoon. Thank you for joining us right now. The Department of Public Safety holding a news conference at this hour to address the upcoming winter storm. Let's go to that news conference.
Potentially historic winter storm that it will impact much of Minnesota. Already, Governor Walz has declared a peacetime emergency and has authorized the National Guard to provide public safety services if needed over the next 3 days. We have several speakers for you today. We ask that you let them make their remarks, and then you can ask questions later. If you need spellings of their names, we can provide those after the media availability is done. Todd Krause is a meteorologist with the Twin Cities National Weather Service. He'll have the latest on the forecast. Colonel Matt Langer from the State Patrol will talk about safety on the roads. Kevin Reed is Minnesota's interim emergency management director, and he will address how we are assisting our local partners. State Fire Marshal Jim Smith will highlight fire safety tips with all of the new snow coming in. And Jake Loesch, our partner with MnDOT, will let us know how they're taking action to keep the roadways clear across the state. And we'll start with Todd. Todd?
Thank you, Amber. Good afternoon. My name is Todd Krause, Warning Coordination Meteorologist with the National Weather Service in Chanhassen. This is indeed going to be a historic storm. It's going to be a tough storm, especially for those in open country. You know, the wind blows and it gets very, very tough, especially when you have a lot of heavy snow and very strong wind. There are going to be 2 waves of the snowfall. The forecast is much the same as has been advertised the last few days, where later today and through tonight, about 6 to 8 inches of snow, and then starting later tomorrow into Thursday, about another foot of snow. So we're talking, you know, a foot and a half of snow in many, many areas across central and southern Minnesota. And then you throw in the wind, and the wind will pick up especially during the day on Wednesday. You know, by afternoon on Wednesday, wind gusts could easily be over 40 miles per hour in much of western and southern Minnesota. Again, open country, that's the area where it can get especially tough, 0 visibility at times. For more weather information, you can go to our website, which is weather.gov. With that, I'd like to introduce Colonel Langer.
Thanks, Todd. I have the honor and privilege of serving as Chief of the Minnesota State Patrol. My name is Matt Langer, and I just have a few simple messages. I've lived in Minnesota my whole life and realize that Minnesotans are hardy. It's not our first winter snowstorm. It won't be our last winter snowstorm, but we have the advantage to plan ahead. And so over the next few days, our message is really simple. Just exercise common sense. Think twice before you need to drive. If you need to drive, think twice about whether you want to take that chance to go from destination A to B. If you're going to venture out, be prepared. Plan ahead. Allow extra time. Slow down. Wear your seatbelt. If you end up in a crash, stay in your car. Don't stand outside your car. If you're traveling anything more than just a very short distance, and even in that short distance, it's smart to have a full tank of gas because you never know where you might get stuck and get stranded. And with the temperatures and the wind, it's very comforting to have a full tank of gas and realize that you can have some time before you need to get some help. I know that DOT does a wonderful job of keeping their website updated. That's your go-to source to figure out what road conditions look like. Throughout the next few days, we'll be tweeting out crash numbers and data. But most of all, think twice before you need to travel. Our state troopers and our dispatchers, thank you in advance for those of you that have the chance to stay home and not drive somewhere, because that just gives everyone else a little more room to do the work to keep the roads clean and a little less chance that we have to encounter you, whether you're off the road or something worse. With that, I'll turn it over to Deputy Director Kevin Reed from Homeland Security and Emergency Management.
Thank you, Matt. I'm Kevin Reed. I'm the Interim Director for the Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Management. And this storm has grabbed your attention. It probably should. It's going to be an event potentially of historic nature, as the Weather Service has said. And we really want you to be prepared, but not panic. We want you to start to think about how you, if you need to drive, where you need to go, and start planning that now. And if you can avoid going somewhere, try to do that or postpone. Our staff will be reaching out to all the counties over the next couple of days to assess what their needs are and how we can assist them in their emergency management functions. And we will reach out to them daily to update where we are and where they are. If you have to go somewhere and you can't avoid travel, make sure that you do have a safety kit within your car, as seen here on the screen. Keep it in your car, take it with you, put an extra bottle of water, hat, gloves, blanket, snacks, something that's going to have to be there in case you get stuck. And understand that just being in greater Minnesota doesn't mean that's where you're going to get stuck. There are opportunities to get stuck anywhere throughout the metro with this amount of snow. Our responders may have take some time to get to you. So with this amount of snow, if you come off the road, it may take a while because there may be other people. State Patrol, tow, first with MnDOT may take a little time to get to you. If you're looking at your GPS and you're trying to get somewhere, don't say that the highway is closed, so let's try to go a back road, because those probably will be worse than the highway. So if the highway is closed, don't drive on the highway. It's going to be difficult. Don't try to drive overnight. It lengthens the response that we would have to get there to get you. Minnesota's weather can be extremely life-threatening at this point in time. So take your plan. Postpone your annual trip. This week, we were supposed to have our annual emergency management conference. We decided to postpone that so that the emergency managers can be in their county and not sitting at a conference with us, so they can be there for the citizens of Minnesota and helping out in their own jurisdiction. Continue to pay attention to the forecast. Continue to look at 511. If you are stuck or something happens, call 911. Stay in your vehicle. That's the safest place for you. The best thing to do is, if you have a bandana or some sort of bright cloth, roll it up into your window so that we can see, or someone can see that you're there. Make sure if you have to travel, you notify someone that you are traveling. Let them know when your ETA is supposed to be there, and then check back in once you get there so that someone has an idea where you are. So if something were to happen, we have a better idea through dispatch or state patrol where to start looking if we have to. And after all, postpone if you don't have to go. Thank you. I'll turn it over to Fire Marshal Jim Smith.
Good afternoon. My name is Jim Smith, and I proudly serve as State Fire Marshal. As this snowstorm bears down on the Twin Cities and greater Minnesota, I think one of the big things we have to take away is that emergency response to your residence or your building is going to be greatly affected. We could see response times increase by almost 4 times what they would be on a normal emergency response. Therefore, the state fire marshal is asking everybody in Minnesota, now is the time to really become fire safe aware in your homes, more so now than ever. We have a lot of people who choose to smoke, and that's their right. A lot of times they go out on their deck to smoke, and then they put their cigarette out in a can or something like that. When you have 14 inches of snow coming, 50 mile an hour winds, there's more likelihood of them staying in the home and smoking. If you are going to smoke in your home, please make sure all cigarettes have been extinguished thoroughly. As the temperatures drop, we see many people in Minnesota using alternative heating for warmth in their house. Space heaters, when used as designed, plug directly into a wall, not an extension cord, but directly into the wall, in and of themselves are safe. Where we run into problems is when people bring combustibles too close to that space heater, or if they leave the room for extended periods of times with that space heater on. Please, again, be diligent about space heaters. Space heaters are a wonderful adjunct to your home heating, but they need to be monitored at all times. Do not use any type of heating system that is not rated for your home. Do not bring in propane heaters. We have actually seen in past years where people have brought charcoal grills into their home, and we've heard time and time again how Mr. and Mrs. homeowner think it's a very good idea to turn the stove on or the oven and use that as an alternative way to heat their home. Do not use any alternative type of heating if it is not rated for regular home use. As the snow continues, please make sure that you keep your doors clear of snow and snow drifts. That is your lifeline to get out of the house. You will be very surprised at how quickly your doors will become impassable due to the amount of snow blocking that doorway. Time and time again, or I should say every so often go out and shovel that pathway from your door outside your house. Again, that is your lifeline to get out of your house. Obviously, smoke alarms and CO detectors are our best safety net to protect us from the ravages of fire or CO poisoning. We tell you to test your smoke alarms and CO detectors every 6 months. You are going to be in your house for the next 2 days. What better time to check your smoke alarm and your CO detectors? Please make sure they are working. Smoke detectors, smoke alarms and CO detectors save lives, but only if they are working properly. When the storm is passed, later on Thursday into Friday, please make sure that you clean out or clear out the space around your fire hydrants. There will be a lot of snow on the ground. Fire doubles in size every 30 to 45 seconds, and the longer it takes for a fire department to shovel out a hydrant to get that needed water for your fire, your home fire or business fire, is going to be time that the fire is going to grow and grow and grow. Please make sure those hydrants are shoveled out. And lastly, once the storm has passed, please walk around your home and clear out all the areas where you have venting coming out of your house, your dryer vents, water heater vents, furnace vents, and also if you have a gas meter alongside your house, please make sure that is cleared out as well. That is going to give you added protection well after the storm has passed. Thank you very much, and with that, I'd like to turn it over to Jake Loesch from MnDOT.
Thanks everybody for being here. I'm Jake Loesch. I'm the Communications and Public Engagement Director with MnDOT. As you can hear from the group of us up here, I think the story of this storm is really coordination and preparation. We're all in regular communication, and I want to give a special shout out to our local city and county crews that are going to be working hard overnight, long hours to help keep your local roads clear as well. At MnDOT, our crews are prepared and ready. This is what we plan for. We view winter season as any time between October and April. And this storm is something we've been tracking for days, and we're ensuring that our shifts statewide are covered. Our trucks are fueled, our salt sheds are full, our brine tanks are full, and we have more than 800 trucks and more than 1,600 snowplow drivers around the state ready to go and keep those roads as safe as possible. All that being said, as you've heard, this is a major storm, and you should expect delays. Folks should expect travel delays and very, very challenging road conditions. 15 to 20 inches of snow in a short period of time or more. It's going to be significant, and it's going to take time for crews to clear and get those roads safe. I think as Minnesotans, we all know that winter is a team sport. We'll be doing our part to get the highways clear. I know a lot of these other folks behind me are going to be doing their part to keep folks safe as well. But the public has a huge role to play. We need your help. If at all possible, avoid travel the next few days. If you can postpone travel, please do. Stay home, stay warm, stay safe. I want to echo what you've heard from all of us up here today. Remember, our snowplows get stuck in the same traffic you do. So if traffic is backed up, if there's delays on the roads, snowplows are going to be in that same traffic in those same conditions as any other drivers on the road. Staying home, fewer people on the roads means that our crews are able to get their jobs done faster, emergency services are able to get where they need to be, the patrol's able to help people out. The less people on the roads, the better for the next few days. It's really going to do us all a favor, and I think, as I mentioned, we all know winter's a team sport. We all have a role to play. And always, please always check 511MN before you go. That's our most up-to-date resource. It provides you with live traffic conditions, live cameras, road conditions. You can see snowplow views, so you can get a good sense of what that road looks like. If you do absolutely have to travel, you can look at 511mn.org or download the app on your phone. We have an Apple and an Android version of that app, and it'll be the most up-to-date live source of information about the road conditions and what you might anticipate. Thanks very much. Amber, I think it's back to you.
All right, so we will open it up for questions. Go ahead.
Hi, Jonah Kaplan with WCCO CBS Minnesota. This question really is for any of you, particularly when we talk about emergency vehicles and getting through the main arteries and things. When we talk to specifically Twin Cities, Minneapolis-St. Paul, they were facing a lot of blowback and frustration from residents because they didn't get to those neighborhood streets. And again, we heard that the priority is to keep the main roads clean for emergency vehicles. But an ambulance has to get potentially to a house. So, how do you square those two things? And can you talk about what are ambulances supposed to do? What are fire trucks supposed to do if they can't get into the neighborhoods and only the main roads are clear?
It's a very good question. I think a lot of municipalities, Minneapolis-St. Paul and surrounding suburbs as well as greater Minnesota are addressing that issue as we speak to make certain that emergency apparatus can get into the neighborhood. There will be a delay if firefighters have to pull hose and stretch hose through quite a bit of snow. That's a given. Same thing with stretchers and any type of patient conveyance mode. So it's something that, harkening back to Colonel Langer, Minnesotans are hardy. We know how to operate in this. The biggest takeaway, one, the best fire that happens is the one that never occurs, and be extra diligent so we do not need to respond into your neighborhood or anything like that.
Do you want to see the municipalities go into neighborhoods quicker before, instead of waiting till after the snow finishes?
That we're going to leave that up to the individual municipalities. I could not speak for any municipality from this position. I do know that it is a lot easier to get down a street if there's a plow that has gone down. Many communities have snow plows dedicated to the fire station and will assist them on their calls. So it's not necessarily they're plowing all the streets in their community, but directly related to the address that they are going to.
Any other questions?
I just have one, Colonel Langer, and maybe Mr. Krause as well. Have we had one of these before? I suppose we must have, where we've had a grand display of what's going on and what we're up against. When's the last time we had such a display of you guys coming out and talking? Who remembers the last time we did that?
I feel like it's about our 6th one since Halloween. But no, this year. But I'll let him speak authoritatively from the Weather Service. But we've had significant blizzard conditions across the state of Minnesota this winter, actually more than a lot of us can remember. And just talking to one of our most seasoned people last week in northern Minnesota, conditions in northern Minnesota were as bad as he'd seen it in 20 years. So it's been a very, very busy winter season. I think what's different from my perspective, just in this position, is that we're looking at, potentially 1.5 feet or 2 feet of snow in the metropolitan area and across a band of Minnesota that maybe normally doesn't see that kind of snow as regularly as other places. But even a 1/2 inch of snow, I think this is one of the key messages. Our troopers that work in the outlying areas, so think Wilmer, think the Red River Valley, think Marshall, a 1/2 inch of snow and 40-mile-an-hour wind means you can't go anywhere. So sometimes for us, 2 feet of snow actually helps because people don't go somewhere. So it's kind of a combination of issues that give us some anxiety about this storm. But I think the message is still really simple. Just plan ahead. And if you have a chance to not tempt fate, this would be the time to not tempt fate.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sure. Yeah, the last time might have been when the whole group of us gathered together. May have been, I think, November of 2018, when we were at the MnDOT facility just north of downtown St. Paul. And but beyond that, some of the really big storms include mid-April of 2018, and then you have to go back to December of 2010 when the Metrodome roof collapsed. Those are the type of storms we're talking about, where we could get a foot, 1.5 feet of snow grand total, plus then all the wind. And those of us in the metro, it can get plenty of drifts, can be difficult travel, certainly in the Twin Cities, and then you get outside the metro, and as the Colonel described, that's where it can especially be life-threatening.
For the state officials, I suppose Paul Fox and I'm back here. When we talk schools, you just leave that up to the local municipalities. With a governor, I remember Dayton, when it got ice cold, maybe canceled some schools. Is the state just going to trust local municipalities, local jurisdictions to make the call on whether schools should be in session these next couple of days?
Yes, we'll leave that up to the local school boards to decide that, understanding that they're looking at the same things we are, bus transportation, how they're going to get kids in and out, what times, and all the timing of the storm. So we'll leave that up to them. They are pretty good at deciding. I know they do it very regularly.
And I guess for MnDOT, in terms of if we do get upwards of 2 feet and how much snow, I guess we got some rain to wash some of it away. Are there places to put 2 feet of snow, keep safe, to kind of come out of this on the back end on Friday in good shape?
Yeah.
I've seen some prep going on to.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Stuff and talk to me just about the volume of snow and what this may look like on the back end.
Yeah, I mean, we are a little bit fortunate in this situation that a lot of that snow we've already had this season. As we've heard, it has been a tough season. We've had a lot of snow. We've had tough, challenging weather. We've had a lot of ice. A lot of that has melted away. So a lot of that room that we have that we've put stuff for the rest of the year, we do have space for it. We've got a lot of right-of-way along highways where we can put a lot of that snow. I don't think the storage of it is a concern for us as much as making sure that those roads get clear as soon as we can. We've got those targets of how fast we can get roads clear. The heavier volume roads are the first ones we're going to tackle, and our crews will be out. In the metro, maybe Jonah, to your question a little bit too, in the metro, our crews are running 24 hours, and I know we've seen, the city of Minneapolis open up a lot of open parking spaces. I can't speak to their plans, but the fewer cars on the road, the fewer cars parked in those local roads, the easier it is for plows to get through and keep everybody safe. So I think that's the key message for us too. The more you can stay off the roads, the more you can stay home, keep your car out of the way of a snowplow, the better for everybody, and the faster we're going to get cleaned up and life back to normal on Friday and into the weekend.
And then my final question would just be about that lull in between. How important, either from road management, for some of the other homeland security stuff, how many hours are we looking at that, and how critical is that to kind of resetting the table for the big one.
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, any break in the conditions obviously allows us to sort of catch up, right? Our crews in the metro are going to be working 24/7, up to 12-hour shifts. We've got, what is it? I think over 200 trucks and about 400 drivers in the metro that are ready to go. But if those breaks obviously give us a chance to get ahead and get caught up before the next round comes through. I'm not sure exactly of how long of a break we're looking at there, but anything like that is good for our crews as they're out working.
Kaya, you had a question.
Amber, if I might respond, I'd like to, one of the questions Paul had to do with school officials and such. One of the things that the National Weather Service has done for quite a few years now is provide decision support to those decision makers, whether it's those of us in public safety, but also school officials. And just this morning, we held a webinar at 10 a.m. and there were something like 450 people on that webinar, all decision makers, many of whom were with schools. And so we are generally always ahead of any storm like this, always on providing as much information. And it's not just our weather office, but weather offices around the country doing the same thing.
Kaya, your turn.
All right, thank you. I was wondering, when we do see emergency response vehicles on the highway or even just in our neighborhoods, I see a lot of confusion about how you're supposed to let them pass. A stretch I'm thinking of is like right before you get to 94 and you're on 394 into downtown Minneapolis, and like there's an ambulance and it's like half the people go to the right, the others are just, it seems confusing. Is there a general rule of thumb to pass along?
Good question. So if you're stuck in traffic and you see an emergency vehicle behind you, the law says you're supposed to move all the way to the right as far as possible. There are times where that just isn't going to be reality. So in those cases, we just ask people to use their best judgment, and generally you can kind of see what people are doing. And speaking as someone who's driven emergency vehicles, and I know others feel the same way, as long as you're making a path for us to get through, we're happy. So just do what you have to do to let the emergency vehicles through.
I have a question. I've never seen a blizzard bucket in my life. Who's responsible for that? And blizzard buckets. Where do you get them?
What's in it?
And what's in it? Peanut butter and jelly sandwiches.
So that's a little bit of an old school item. It's something that we've had in our archives for a while, but it does include a bucket. It's a metal bucket that's empty, and you can put all of your little items in it, whether it's a candle and matches to melt snow, and a little mug to melt the snow to make for water. There's a red bandana in there, a pad of paper, and a pencil. You can store your snacks in there if you want, and any other little goodies, a whistle if you think you might need it as well. So just another example of how you can have a winter survival kit in your vehicle, but it's in a more compact space such as a bucket. All right, any other questions? Jonah?
Thank you.
Yeah.
I might be the only novice Minnesota here. And look, I think we're all veterans, right? And I don't know who it was who said, preparedness and not being panicked. But there is an element sometimes of overconfidence. And I'm asking respectfully, where do Minnesotans sometimes get a little too confident with things? And where do you think are the biggest vulnerabilities that we can identify? And maybe, Fire Marshal, you spoke about, the heating, and I wanted to give another opportunity to reiterate about communication with families.
All right, you've been listening to the department, and if you take a look behind me here, you can see, there's still a lot of water left over. But while the owner here says he's not concerned about this just yet, he does hope it clears up soon before it starts to impact his crops. At a quick glance, this may seem like a peaceful day at the lake. But that's not the case here.
It's pretty nuts.
Lane Montgomery is the winemaker and owner at M2 Winery in Acampo. And this big body of water was not part of his landscaping plans.
The water just kept rising. I've got a weather station on site, and we've had 17 inches of rain.
Last month, Montgomery's winery took a big hit after consecutive storms flooded his property. The tasting room, which is where the majority of his sales take place, had to close for 3 weeks, resulting in a major loss.
30 to 50,000. So, it wasn't any fun.
But after some time and pumping, M2 finally reopened last Friday. Patrick Keating has been a loyal customer for the past 10 years and made sure to stock up as soon as he could.
It's great. They're my favorite winery in this area, and so, yeah, it's important to support them economically.
Even with business slow.
The very latest on this storm, we want to go over to Jennifer McDermott. And Jennifer, you really have to pay attention, take notes. I found myself writing things down last night just so I wouldn't forget anything about how this is going to play out.
Right. This is a multi-day event that we're talking about. High impact each and every day for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and even into Friday. So let's go ahead and take a look at the timeline of when this storm system will be impacting you. So for tonight through tomorrow morning, that's when round one of this fluffy snow arrives. We're looking at maybe 5 to 7 inches when all is said and done just for round one. The good news about tonight is that our winds are not expected to pick up, but it is still going to be dangerous traveling just because of how much snow will be falling in a short amount of time. By tomorrow morning into early afternoon, we'll have a little bit of a lull, meaning we'll have mostly cloudy sky. We'll have some patchy areas of snowflake, but the rate of the snowfall will go down significantly for tomorrow morning into the early afternoon. And then as we head into Wednesday evening through Thursday afternoon, the snow picks up, heavy snow at times, and the winds will be picking up as well. That's going to result in drifting snow, blowing snow, low visibility, very dangerous travel concerns for our Wednesday, Thursday, and even into Friday. Here's a look at our storm vision right now. You can see the swath of snow finding its way into mainly south and western portions of the state right now along the Minnesota River Valley and between New Ulm, Mankato, over towards Wilmer, St. Cloud, Alexandria, Rochester. Notice how it's beginning to creep into the Twin Cities metro. I anticipate this blanket of snow should be reaching us within the next hour or two. For tonight into our Wednesday morning, a winter storm warning for everyone in this purple shade, mainly central and southern Minnesota, and that's because we are expecting around 4 to 8 inches of snow. The wind not picking up quite yet. Tomorrow morning, the winds pick up during our lull, and then the heavy snow moves in Wednesday afternoon through Wednesday night and into Thursday morning. Because of this, we have blizzard warning for west central portions of the state and southwest. That includes Marshall, Mankato, Hutchinson, St. Cloud, just to name a few locations. And that's because we are expecting wind gusts to be up to 50 plus miles an hour. Whiteout conditions are going to be likely, and the winds will continue to stay strong into Friday. We're not expecting snow to be falling from the sky on Friday, but we can be expecting ground blizzard-like conditions. By winter, over towards the metro and pointing east, that's where we have the winter storm warning, and this is in place until Thursday evening, and that's because of blowing and drifting snow. Here's a look at the timing of the snow. That swath of snow continues to move over towards the east, heavy at times for your Tuesday night into Wednesday morning. This is round one. Then we'll have a little bit of that break, a little bit of that lull come Wednesday morning. Here's 9:30. Notice mostly cloudy sky, some patchy areas of light snow here and there, but quieting things down. The winds pick up. Round two arrives as soon as Wednesday night and into our Thursday morning. And where you see the bright white shade mainly surrounding the Twin Cities metro, most of central and southern Minnesota, that's where we could have heavy snowfall rates overnight and into our Thursday morning. By Thursday afternoon, we'll begin to dry things up. However, the winds will be staying strong, and it's going to continue to give us the travel concerns. By Tuesday night, we're looking at that swath of snow mainly in central and southern Minnesota, around 4 to 8 inches here in the metro. When all is said and done, this is how much snow we are expecting by Thursday late morning, around 14 to 20 plus inches of snow here in the Twin Cities, around 94 and down towards the south along 35 and along areas of I-90 down towards Iowa. The further north you go, the lower the amounts they are. 7 to 14 inches near Pine City, Alexandria, Brainerd, further up towards the Arrowhead, around 3 to 7 inches of snow. So right now we will continue to watch the snow move in from the south and west. We'll continue to provide forecast updates throughout the day and throughout the entirety of this winter storm as we advance over the next few days. Kelsey, I'll send it back to you.
All right, thank you, Jennifer. And remember, fox9.com and the weather app, those are really handy tools to get information at any time. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be back at 2 o'clock to carry that news conference from Minneapolis and St. Paul, the two mayors getting together to talk about how they're planning for their response in the cities. I know last night the city of Minneapolis already announcing they were going to be opening up some parking lots for people to park their cars so they can get them off the streets and the plows can get through. So we'll see you back here in about 25 minutes.
If you've been holding off, now's the time to step into a new Subaru. Come see why Luther White Bear Subaru is the #1 volume Subaru dealer in the Midwest.
We're back with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Now, in your weekly column, you have a section called Kareem's Short Takes. So we thought it would be...
And some of those passes could pick up in excess of 24 inches of snow as you look live here at our water vapor imagery. All areas that you're seeing that lavender color in through the Great Salt Lake show you where there's an abundance of moisture in the atmosphere. And all that moisture is just getting wrung out in the form of not only rain toward Rapid City, South Dakota, but snow toward Pocatello, even Seattle, Washington getting in on that. You'll notice, too, that we still have that snow squall warning for Bonner and Boundary counties. This is in northern Idaho in what's called the Panhandle region. And what's significant about this is literally what you would consider to be whiteout snow, where you're driving along some of the tertiary roadways out that way, just north of Interstate 90. That makes driving almost impossible in terms of seeing where your lane is relative to that lane next to you. It's one of the reasons why the National Weather Service through Thursday morning has issued a number of winter weather alerts, advisories, and warnings. Just